What do you want me to do? Serve anything?
You all want some sherbet and ice cream?
Serve
Wait a minute,
anything?
let
I
me
mean sherbet and cookies?
Only if Tudie does.
Are you ready for some sherbet and cookies?
No, I don't want to think.
There it goes. It's working again.
The lights on.
I'm so glad.
You're on. 5, 4, 3, like they do on TV.
Okay, who do you have in mind that you would like to hear about?
How about this? Is this?
Oh, yeah. Where's that again? There we go.
Yeah. Because I thought it had that picture on the top.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
microphone. So Jackie, you have anybody you want to know
There
about?
was something that we found in Gami's apartment when we went there and talked to her. And it was this thing from Hood College. Do you remember that? There was a piece of paper from Hood College, but it wasn't called Hood College, then it was Hood something. Normal school, Hood Normal School. And somebody, either your mother's mother,
I think it was Ellicott City.
graduated and graduated valedictorian. Do you know anything
Well,
about that?
she went to, you see, her mother died when she was
This
young.
is Ada, Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so her father, she went to boarding school. And that was a sad thing because when Mama got rid of the house, haunts me, there was she had a little trunk, it was about this big, and you opened it up and it was all lined with wallpaper, and it had her name in there in fancy Spencerian handwriting, Ada Virginia Griffith.
Oh, wow. You did something.
And Mama said, well,
Yeah.
Mama said, do you want it? And I said, we were living on Cedar Lane, and I said, no, what would I do with it? And Judy and Dave and Jennifer go out and pay all kinds of money and buy those
The
little
same
trunks.
thing, huh? Oh, well.
Well,
That's why not so many are left.
So Ada went to boarding school.
yeah. Mhm.
And do you know where it was?
No, I can't think of it right now.
I'm pretty sure it said Hood, something about Hood,
But
but I don't know where any of that is.
she was engaged to this man named Cunningham, and they're buried. Cunningham's. They're buried.
Oh.
His plot. Plots, or whatever you call it, plot, is right next to the Griffith one. And he never married, and she married that old reprobate.
The Griffith was a reprobate?
Huh?
Griffith was a reprobate?
Well, he with all those kids that he brought to her,
Oh,
Not
Roe,
Griffith, no,
Roe.
I mean Roe.
Roe,
Yeah, she
okay.
married Roe.
Yeah, wow.
So, but
I wonder if how old was she when she was married? Do we have that date?
I think she was close to 40, wasn't
Well, see, she probably thought she was gonna die an old maid and she just took whatever she could
But
get.
she was engaged to Cunningham. and
But
didn't
she
marry
never
him.
married him. Ada.
That's not this one. That's Roe.
Is that in there?
No, it's the other, this one. Okay. They were married in 1893. Yeah, she was 33.
That was old for that time.
She was 33.
That was very old.
And she had all those kids.
And then she had Helen and Paul and then Gami.
And then those others that she had that died.
Yeah.
So Ada had a twin Bertha. Did you know?
No.
Oh, it doesn't say when she died, but it's even wrong on here because I noticed it says, oh no, that must be this must be Augustus Roe, twin sister.
Yeah, Bertie.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah,
Bertie.
Aunt
Okay.
Bertie. And Aunt Bertie was the one,
20th and 18th.
Aunt, that was his twin sister.
Yeah,
Bertie,
okay.
yeah.
Is that the only twins that were ever in the family?
And then Neil's mother, on their side of the family, but skipped us. I thought maybe Jennifer would get them, but she got all the redheads, you see.
She sure did.
There's 4 kids with all that bright red hair.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much each one of them looks more like the last one. It's like
Yeah,
it's continuation.
when I looked at that, I got, because Judy said to me, call me and let me know if you got it, because she said, I had to wait till Jennifer got the picture to me, which they took Christmas Eve in front of the altar. And so she said, and I mailed it on the way to the airport. Did she call you, by the way, to find out about that? The wristwatch, the $10 watch?
No,
Well, you said
at the airport.
it was at the airport,
BWI.
near Southwestern,
Yeah.
and because that's what they flew on.
Okay.
And so I can give her better. When I finish, I shouldn't be doing this. This is
It's all right. It's all right.
So I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
We
We'll
get
have to
back
talk
to the other. So we get back to Aunt Betty, and we're,
Yes,
we're
tell me
all
more.
here because of Aunt Betty.
Yes,
So
tell
she
me
would
more.
send the coal, and she would come over with Christmas, if we didn't have anything at all. Well, she would come over loaded down with shopping bags and boxes, and with Christmas presents.
Wow.
And so Mama, there was that animosity with Mama and her, and I don't know. But Mama, I think it was just jealousy on her part, you know, and she just felt put down because Betty didn't have any kids, and well, she told that Mama said made her mad because she told one of their friends one time, well, I couldn't afford to have children because I'm taking care of brothers. So whether that
Woe
was-
is me,
yeah,
huh?
that would do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was at their apartment. I guess they lived near MacArthur Boulevard.
Huh?
Did Betty live near MacArthur Boulevard?
Yeah, that's where they.
That's the only place I ever was.
Yeah, finally, when she died, they lived down there, yeah. And, because she died, you know, Aunt Helen was at one end of Georgetown Hospital wing, and she was at the other.
Yeah, because they died with like
What's
a,
that thing?
yeah.
What is it?
It's a stink bug.
It's a big black thing.
Yeah. You can't step on them because they stink.
Oh, is that a stink bug?
That's a stink
Oh,
bug. Yeah. And they hide out. You find them all through the winter. They've been creeping all
Yeah, I
over the
know.
place.
You want it?
I don't know. I've heard about them.
Oh my gosh. They-
We haven't had them as bad as a lot of people though.
Yeah. Well, mine are still hanging around though. It's
It's
amazing.
real bad.
I was gonna ask
I
you.
wonder where I got them, but. So she always provided everything, and Mama was taken sick one time, and we were living out northeast, on Otis Street northeast, and Aunt Betty sent called up Dr. Sanderson, who was well, he rode to the hounds, he was that type of a doctor.
Wow.
And she sent him out. He came with in a chauffeur's limousine and a nurse. And here we were in this little tiny house at Northeast.
Who is it?
And
This
Mom
is,
was laying upstairs, and he said
Aunt
she has to have surgery, and he was a surgeon.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, he's the one that operated on me when I had. And that was another thing. Right, a year after we were married. April 29th, 39, and April 1, 1940, he operated on me and did an exploratory because I didn't know what was the matter with me. I kept passing out all the time and I couldn't walk.
Oh.
And I weighed 92 pounds. Well, I weighed 89 when I got married.
Did you?
So I had put on a couple pounds. And so, anyway, so he did an exploratory, and she paid for that.
Really?
Neil and I had only been married not quite a year. And so she paid for that, and she got, but I remember when that limousine pulled up out front, Daddy said, actually, I don't think it was a limousine, I think he probably had his son driving this great big black Cadillac or something. Daddy said, Lord, this is gonna cost. And I said, Aunt Betty said to tell you, don't worry about it, brother, that she was gonna take care of it. And so she made all the arrangements, and Mama went to the hospital, and they did she had what do you call it, it was not a malignancy, it was a tumor.
Hernia.
A tumor. And say that's what happened with me, because he took out my left tube and ovary.
Oh,
And so Neil's mother said, okay, son, they tell me that you never have but one kind of a child, because she's only got one, and of course it takes 6 years to get pregnant, so. But he said I'd have never gotten pregnant, because the thing was, he showed it to me, was about the size of a big grapefruit.
Oh my goodness.
And it was pressing on the nurse, and that's why I couldn't walk. And I was going to work, and then they working for the wholesale jeweler, and he fired me because he said, you're always sick. And I said, oh, but I just got married. He said, I'm sorry, Miss Turner, but he said, we just can't keep you on.
Oh.
So they let me go. So I went and got the unemployment line, and I drew, 22 weeks or something like that. So you go down and got $18 or $15 a week, that was it. And Neil was, let's see, he was going to school at night.
I wonder any of us made
We
it.
didn't have a car or anything, and he was working way over in Clarendon, Virginia.
Oh, yeah, I know where it
And
is.
we were in 6013th Street, and he'd ride the streetcar down to Pennsylvania Avenue, and then change to something else, and then take a couple of buses to get to Clarendon. Leave home and leave the apartment about 6:30 in the morning. So I said, no wonder he enlisted in the service.
Get me out of here.
But he said, well, they're going to get me anyway. He said, so I might as well wear, he said, go ahead and have, become an officer and not have to worry about where they're going to send me, and maybe I could pick my spot. They picked it in the Philippines.
Yeah. Is that where he spent most of the time?
And he had a big dysentery and
Oh.
was really sick.
Oh my goodness.
So,
So your father was in World War I.
my daddy,
Where do you know where he was?
Yeah, he got as far as New Jersey and on a troop ship, and
The war was over.
1918 came, and that was the end of it.
Wow. So he went
So
through.
he didn't get very far.
now when Uncle Neil went to the Philippines, did you move back home to Gamis?
Oh, I followed him as far as I could go.
Uh-huh.
And
San Francisco.
your mother and I, well, we both went to Wilmington, North Carolina, and your mother got a transfer with her government job down there. And the man that I worked for at Mr. Rochelle at Capital Transit gave me a letter of introduction to the president of the Atlantic Coastline. And that's what they did in those days. And so I took it in and presented it to him, and he said, well, we're hiring OCS wives, and because we were only there for 4 months. And so he said, we always have a need for you because, turnover and so forth. So they put me in, they started you off in a mail room so that you would know where everybody
Everything.
was and so forth. And then you went in and sat down and started taking dictation from the head of he was the personnel man. He was the oldest personnel railroad man in the history of railroad. The man was up in his 90s, but he talked like that. So it was good that he did, because sitting there, and I think I was shaking like he was.
So you were there for 4 months?
So I was there for 4 months, and we would go over to, Neil would get OCS. They couldn't drink beer or anything because they had that patch on them. And Jack and your mom and Neil and I would go to Wrightsville Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And for the weekend, Neil had broken out with this, we call it the creeping crud. And they told him to go sit in the sun and get the sun on there. And so I would go in and Thelma and I would go in and get a beer that Jack could drink, because he was part
was
of the
enlisted,
cadre. He
yeah.
was an OCS. And so I would go, Thelma and I would go in and get a beer, and then Neil would be like, Neil, your
Sneak it
brother,
to him.
Jack said, I'm going to tell on you.
Well, so you were down there at the same time that they were.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jack was there first because he was a cadre. And so he taught over there with the OCS people.
Oh, okay.
And so then Neil he graduated in August. We went down on the Atlantic coastline, dirty train with all the cinders and everything coming at us. And then we got, and then I also, your mother lived with one person, and I, through the letter of introduction, I was given a letter to take over to this lady that had extra rooms to rent, and so I went there. And so I was in one room, and then Selma was a couple blocks away, but we'd get together on weekends. And then sometimes Neil couldn't get off on the weekend, so I would just follow them or go over with them to the beach. And then we went from there to, he was trained before he went overseas to Riverside, California, and that's where I got pregnant with Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Bill always called her Sunshine. So, let's see, that was, so we were out there and hearing some of the stories that your son was telling about the places where he was living and so forth. Sounded like we lived in this one, we called it Waffy's Paradise. It was a horrible place, but everybody had they had one huge room and there were tables all around. You had your own table and you could decorate it the way you wanted to. And they had bought these boxes that used to put bodies into, for molds and that type. And each one of us had a name on the thing, and we reached in there. And I'm sure they were sanitized, I hope.
Well, I'm sure. Still, it's a bit creepy to do that kind of stuff.
And that was Waffy's Paradise, we called it. And so we were there, and then he got his orders to that he was going to ship out. And here I'm out there with very pregnant, and so I had to get home. So he somehow or another maneuvered and got me to. I got ahead of myself. Before he shipped out. Before he shipped out, the war in Europe ended. And so he was anti-aircraft artillery. And they didn't need that anymore, the big guns going up in the air. So he was going to have to go to the Pacific, so they made him, sent him to Fort Benning, Georgia, and made him an infantry officer.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I started then following him around. So then he was sent down to Fort Hood, Texas, and I followed him down there, and that was Waffy's Paradise down there. And so we lived there for a short time, and then he got his orders to ship out. And so I went out to California. I was still nursing Judy, but he had the tickets, and they had just come out with the paper diapers and all. And he had all of that in his stuff. And so I had a couple of cloth diapers. And so I was here, and he was at the car behind me. The next morning, I go to look for Neil, and there was a dance band, and they had uncoupled his car. And I said, "Where is my husband?" And this conductor said, "Ma'am, what are you talking about?" He had gotten on during the night, and he didn't know about the switch.
Oh my God.
And I explained it, and he said, "Where's your ticket?" And then I remember this old man said, "We'll sue, we'll sue." I said, "Sue who?" He said, "Atlantic Coastline." Not Atlantic Coastline. That was who I worked for down there. The thing, Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe.
Wow.
And so he said, they took her husband off. He said, I saw the man. He sat right down, right across from me. And he said, I saw him say, I'll keep the tickets so you don't have to worry about it. And this old guy was with the Interior Department, and he carried his, he was too old for service, and he carried his fishing rod wherever he went. So he said, we'll get off at the next stop, which was Barstow.
Oh, California.
And in California.
The desert.
And desert. And I said, no, sir, I'm not getting off. And there was this lady, she was beautiful. We kept in touch for about 4 or 5 years. And she said she was, her son had gone to the Atlantic and something had happened and he was taken ill or something, he was wounded and was being sent to a hospital out in California. And so she said that she would let me have her space. She had a double, and so we did that.
Where are you at?
Then we got out there, and Neil tried his best to get in touch with me. And they couldn't. He didn't have certain, what the number of the train was or anything. So when we got to. There was a honeymoon couple on there. They were
On the train.
on the train. He was Coast Guard, and they befriended us. And all I knew was the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. That's all I knew. That's where we were supposed to go. And so he said he thought that had been taken over, and I said, well, that's what I think where we were going to stay. Well, we got over there, got off of the train, and he called a cab, and Tudie and I got in the cab with him and his wife, and we went to the St. Francis Hotel, and sure enough, it had been taken over for troops.
Yeah.
But they had a little place next to it, like an annex, and they put us in there.
Wow.
And so...
And you obviously met up with Neil.
And finally, Neil's going crazy, And finally, so we met up. And that's why we went to the top of the Mark, and that's when I was out there for the wedding. And I told Lee the story, and Lee said, Aunt Tudie, I've made reservations for breakfast at the top of the Mark.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
thought that was nice of him.
Oh my gosh.
And it looked just the same, except the chairs weren't pink leather anymore, they were brown or something.
70 years later. God.
Let's see. What was I gonna ask? I don't know. So you didn't live with Gami during the war, just Mom did, right?
Did I what?
You didn't live with your mother during the war, or did you live there when my mom lived there?
Yeah, your mother had the bed, well, there were those 2 rooms on the end.
Uh-huh.
And I was in the back one, and your mother had the front one. And, I came home from California, and then I was pregnant, and your mom was pregnant at the same time, because there was 6 weeks difference there.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to Columbia Hospital, and Daddy, he was carrying her suitcase, and the nurse went by and says, oh my God, they're bringing them in 2 at a time. I said, no,
I'm not staying. Thank you very
much.
much.
And so I stayed there, and then I couldn't take it any longer. That's when I decided I was going to start following him around, because Aunt Laura was living there, and Aunt Helen, of course that house wasn't, it was a pretty good sized place. And Aunt Helen, that was Aunt Helen's room, because she paid for it, but she was doing all the traveling. And so she said, Laura can use it when I'm not there. And when she was there, she and Aunt Laura split the room, the bed. And so that's when finally I couldn't stand it any longer. And because Mama was getting on to me. And she said, you're sitting home all this time, and he's over there all of his checks were coming in, officers, mess and club. And so I said, well, I'm not worried about that. This was, because he was down there in Texas, in Fort Hood. And so I made up my mind we were going to leave. And that was the 10th of February. And so I sent him a telegram and said, 2 Valentines arriving on the 14th of February. Meet us at such and I gave him the name of the station.
Wow.
So that put him right, so that's when he went out and got this place at Waffy's. The woman's name was Wofford. And so...
That was San Antonio then, huh? San Antonio? Isn't that where Fort Hood is?
Outside of that,
Yeah.
Mhm. And so it's where that crazy doctor just killed
Yeah,
him.
it's near where my sister lives, that's why I know,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's not too far.
And so, anyway, so he met us, and I remember he was there at the train station. Oh, so what I did was I had this old trunk of Aunt Helen's, and it was a steamer trunk, and so I had gone down, pulled it up from the basement steps, and put it in the hallway, and I'd start throwing clothes down, throwing things down, and then I'd come downstairs and put them in. It had drawers that you pulled out, and I would push stuff in there. I called Railway Express and had them pick up the thing, told them where I was going, and when I had the apartment rented. And so I had that income anyway. 50, let's see, we paid $50 a month for the apartment with utilities, and the rent was frozen, and I only charged $100. And so I got to keep 100. I mean, keep 50.
Keep 50.
And so I remember the man I rented it to, and I put it in the paper.
Oh, this was the $1 a day guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, tell the story, this
Yeah,
is great.
and I said, he said, $50 a room? And I said, no, sir, $50 for the whole thing. He said, oh, I paid much more than that. He said, I'm here for $1 a day. I mean, $1 a year. $1 a year, man, yeah.
Those that wanted to help with the war effort and worked with the government, they had other income, and so they would be hired for $1 a year.
He said, I said, what is your name? This was on the telephone. He said, I'm a regular old angel. So that was his name, Angel. And there too, we kept in touch for a couple of years too. And then when I was down in Texas and his year was up, and he rented it to a couple, nice young couple, he said, very nice young people. Turned out that she broke up. They were drinkers, and all my crystal and all, which I didn't take with it. The people across the next door, the apartments, came together, the kitchens. She said we'd hear this crunch, and they were having things, and they threw them glass, and then you couldn't buy that powdered after the war. So.
And it made you sick, I'm sure.
And she left a big telephone bill, but her father was, I got in touch with Mr. Angel. He was so apologetic, and he gave me the name of the father who owned a couple of hotels down in Miami. And I called the man and told him what had happened, and he said, how much? And I told him, I said, this is long distance telephone calls. And I said, this is just for the phone calls, but I said, oh my crystal and all. And he said, he gave me a figure, and he said, would that do? And I said, yes. So I just went ahead and took it out, and it was like $3,000 or something like that. I mean, I figured, well, I might as well argue with him. He owned
That
all
was
those
smart.
hotels.
That was smart.
So,
Wow.
because I rented it completely furnished.
For $100 a month.
$100.
All utilities.
Oh, jeez. So tell me about high school. What memories you have of high school?
Well, let's see. I was real active in the drama club and things like that. I always envied those that were in the singing part,
I think I got mine from you. Or didn't. Yeah,
And
neither one of us.
my
could-
favorite courses were classes were history and English.
Oh,
I loved those. Those were my two favorites. And of course Bob went history.
Oh, yeah.
And English, you know, got a granddaughter.
Dad always liked history too.
yeah. Oh, and he was very smart, I thought Jack was. Very smart guy that hadn't gone on further. Now, did you guys go to the same high school?
No,
No.
no, I went to Tech.
And
At Northeast.
Okay.
Dad went to Wilson.
He went to Wilson.
Okay.
Because they were living in Chevy Chase then, because we were still out Northeast.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And Betsy she finally did finish, but she started out at Wilson also, but she finished at Tech.
Mm-hmm.
She had to take a summer course or something.
And Bill also went to Tech, didn't he? Did Bill go to
I don't
Tech?
remember Bill ever going any place outside of junior high.
Oh, really?
Because he ran off and
Joined the Navy,
when
that's
he was
right, that's right.
15. And
Oh,
Daddy had to
yeah.
go down and
I did hear that.
rode a bus and brought him home. And then he decided, well, because Neil was in the service and Jack was in the service. And then Daddy said, well, if he's going to do this, he said, I might as well go ahead and let him sign him. So he signed him up for the Navy. Bill said, I don't want to be one of those, or what do they call them? Anyway, he said, I want a nice bath every night and a hot shower. So he joined the Navy.
So Bill tried to get into the Second World War at 15? Bill tried to get into the Second World War at 15?
Yeah. He went down and he, you know, and then when they asked for all this information and he couldn't, so they called up, found out and called up home and said, come get him. And he did it twice.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But, and then he met Joanne, and then they had Billy. And then he married him, and then he divorced her, or the mother got the divorce for them. And then after that came that one that the mother was another bad influence on that. She'd been married before, the second wife, and
Really? I know about second one, too.
she had a son, and so he got that to take care of.
Bill had another son?
No,
Oh,
no,
she
the
had
second
a
wife
son.
had a
Okay,
Wife
okay.
number 2 had a son.
You remember her name?
I can't remember her name. I never liked her anyway. So
We don't need to put her
he had
down.
fish, and you know, he stayed home while she went to work and took care of her
child.
kid. And
Uh-huh.
that didn't work. And then he met
Martha.
Martha Ann. So
Number 2, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's really something.
do you have 2 wives for Bill?
Yeah, I had Joanne and Martha. But there's another one in there.
Well,
You're
there
saying-
was that third one.
That third
The middle
one.
yeah, but I don't know. She didn't really. She didn't hang around very long.
It's like she said about my marriage, one of my marriages, you said it just didn't take. I always thought that was, no, Tudie would say something about me.
Oh,
She said it just didn't take, like, you know, like it didn't stick or something.
It was only, what, 11 years or something?
13.
13. Yeah.
Didn't stick. Oh, that's funny.
So tell us how you met Neil.
Oh, Evelyn and I were roommates. Evelyn Fitzgerald were the roommates. We were locker mates in high school. And she said that she had met these boys from Catholic University, and she said they wanted one of them. She said, I think I've told you, Tudie, about one of them. She said, I've had a couple of dates with him, but in the meantime, she said, I still go out with Ray Turner, who's out at the University of Maryland. And so she said, but they want to go out, this was like on a Thursday, and she said they want to go out, and the one that I've been dating, she said, wants me to get a date for his friend. So she said, can you go out Friday night. And I said, sure. So she said, well, we'll pick you up. And so I said, okay. So I said, what time? She says, well, I don't know. I'll have to let you know. Well, we didn't even have a telephone then. And so Buddy Litchfield lived over, our house was like here, and like catty corner over there, the Litchfields. And so he used to take his air rifle and he'd aim, and there was a thing up on the roof that hung up loose, and he'd hit that thing, and then I would go, you know, and I'd go over, and he had a phone call for me. Well, so my father got mad about it, and then he turned around and said he could kill somebody or put somebody's eye out with that BB gun. Not, you know, we don't have a phone because of you.
And we killed a few people.
All heart.
Yeah. Jeez.
And so anyway, so I went over, and Evelyn said, oh, Tudie, she said, the guy that I told you about, she said, they're not coming, she said, tonight because they have final exams and they're going to study. But she said, Ray Turner said his cousin, whose name is Neil, has just gotten back today from, he spends his winters in Florida, and he had just gotten back today from Florida, and so would you like to go out with him? She said, I don't know whether you like him or not, but he'll spend money. And so I said, oh, sure. So then I went back in the house, came back over and told Mama, and my father said, I thought you were going out tonight. I said, well, I am. He said, what time? And I said, oh, I think about 9:30 or so. He said, if they're not here by 10 o'clock, you're not moving out of this house. So I said, yes, sir.
And how old were you at this time?
Well, I was graduating from high school the next month.
Oh, okay, okay.
And this was May.
Okay.
Because he went to my senior prom with me at Boardman Park Hotel. So, and so anyway, so he said they were out of cigarettes. And Mama said to him, why don't you go down, there was a little store down at the corner, why don't you go down there and get us a pack of Camels? And so he said, okay. So I said, so Mama said, you better be out of here before he gets back up. I'll try to stall him out back. I think that was about the one time she did me a favor. And so anyway, Evelyn drove up. I mean, they drove. In the meantime, he had gotten the Buddy's telephone number from Evelyn. And so he had called and said, I'm looking forward to the date tonight with you. I hear you're a little redhead. And so he says, Ray told me all about you. And I thought, well, I don't even know Ray. But I guess I got that from Evelyn.
Yeah, how's he telling?
And so anyway, so they got there, and I went out, and Neil had a Roadster, and it was a little Chevy Roadster with a, what's his name, seat in the back.
Rumble seat.
Rumble seat in the back. And so we weren't in that because Aunt Net hadn't released it to him or something, because he was living with her at the time. And so we were in Ray's car. And so we went to a place, so I told them I have to be back by 12 o'clock. And so they said, okay. So we went out to, where all the Turners used to meet on Fridays and Saturday nights and drink beer. It was Wayside Inn. It was where, it's not there anymore, but it's where East-West Highway comes in, and the what's his name, Dry Cleaners was right across the road there. And so we sat there and drank a beer and ate some pretzels and potato chips and so forth. And then he said, how about Sunday? Are you free Sunday? And I said, yes. And he said, good. So Evelyn said, oh, we're going tea dancing at the Madrelon. That was down on, still, I don't know whether it's still there, but the building is still there. Rhode Island Avenue, New York Avenue ends here, and then Pennsylvania comes around and goes up past the Treasury, and there's the what's his name hotel there, the Washington Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Washington Building, and on the second floor was this restaurant, and they had tea dances every Sunday, and that was the place to go in D.C.
And a tea dance is an afternoon dance? Is that how it gets the name tea dance?
They called them tea dances. They were in the afternoon.
Okay.
And,
Washington Hotel is where
where
my
we-
senior prom was.
Mine too.
What's that?
Our
The
se-
Washington Hotel is where our senior proms were.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
where yours
uh-huh.
was? Oh.
Yeah. And Bob's too?
So anyway, so I said told Mama, I said, oh, I liked him a lot. And I said, we're going there. And I said, but I haven't got any shoes to wear or anything. She said, Helen just got, and they were living a block away, Helen just got new shoes. She said, go down and see, go down and see if you can fit into them. And because Aunt Helen would give Mama all of her old stuff.
So she had a small foot too.
And I got it, and they were, Aunt Helen, I was wearing a 4.5 at that time, and Aunt Helen was wearing a 5.5. And so they were a little too big, so we put toilet paper in the front of them, in the toes. Well, Neil was quite a fancy dancer. When you danced with Neil, you did dips all the time. So we got down there.
You fell out of your shoes.
And then we sat down, and so he asked me to dance, and so we danced, and we did a dip, and up, and off went the shoe, and out came the toilet paper.
How embarrassing.
He said, what was that? And I said, oh, it looks like something was in my shoe.
Please give it back.
And he went over and picked it up. I said, oh, I'll get it. I got it, and I pushed it real quick, like back in the toe. And he said, Evelyn said, Tudie, what was that? And I said, well, I'm thinking, when they get shoes are new there. And I said, they put them
Tissue
in the toe.
paper.
Oh, she said, you should have taken it out. I said, I know I should have. So we were walking and came out, and they had parked on a parking place quite a ways away. We were walking across, they still had streetcar tracks coming up there. And he had me by the arm, and he said to me, you know what? And I said, no, what? He said, I'm going to marry you. I said, you're going to marry me? You don't even know me. He said, I know that, but I am going to marry you. And that was it, right there.
Oh my gosh.
So that was meant to be, wasn't it?
What year was that?
Huh?
What year was that?
1936,
36, yeah.
And you were married when, in 39?
39.
Uh-huh. Wow. That's wonderful. Now, I remember his mom, Granny T. I remember her. She lived over
Rock Creek Ford
yeah.
Road. She used to call it Rock Creek Ford Alley. It was Rock Creek Ford Road.
Uh-huh.
And it was right near the apartment where we lived, the apartment.
Oh, okay. What's that around? Is that Tacoma Park area?
No,
What is-
that's Brightwood.
Okay. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
So where did Neil grow up?
He grew up in Tacoma Park.
Okay.
'Cause she didn't raise him.
Oh, Aunt Net did.
Aunt Net raised him and his brother, Willard.
And why was that?
I guess she wanted her space like Debbie did.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving right along.
Do you know how your parents met?
No, I never did. I would have
Never?
loved to have known that.
Yeah,
I never did know. Now it's too late. There's nobody to tell me anymore.
I
But
know. That's what I do. Think about my parents. You can't ask anybody. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like it's gone.
do you know how they met?
My parents, it was a blind date for them. It was a blind date for Bob and me. So you know.
And you too. Huh?
Yeah,
And he?
Yeah, but my parents was not destiny of the years or whatever you want to call it. Bliss. That was my mother said that one time we were getting ready. It was coming up to her 50th anniversary, and I said, you know, maybe we'll do something. She said, don't you do anything.
Oh, wow.
So we had a dinner. The family was okay, but she, I mean,
Oh,
no. Yeah.
Too bad.
So let's hear about, how about some of the other groups? Do you know anything about the Griffiths?
And who?
The Griffiths?
The Griffiths. The only one that I can really remember, other than Uncle Henry, who was Nanny Lou's brother, was the one that lived in Alaska. He lived in Nome, Alaska, and he had a wife. They used to come, she had a genuine sealskin coat. I remember everybody used to talk about her.
This is Rose, Ada Virginia Griffith was your grandmother. Ada
Ada
Virginia.
Virginia Griffith.
That was it.
That was,
And then she had the brother Henry Clay.
yeah.
And
So
he
this
had
is Abner's mother's family.
And Uncle Henry had several wives. He married his stepsister, Aunt Laura's sister.
Oh, okay.
Bert was her name.
Okay.
That was the birdie.
That was the first one, yeah.
And then, well, you probably wouldn't have known.
And he
them.
had two more wives, but I don't remember who they were.
Hmm.
It's before my time.
So this was Augustus Rose, mother of the four. That other one we were looking at. This one. Yeah, this goes further. So this is what we know of Roe and all of his stuff. So this is her family.
Oh,
Miss
okay,
Griffith.
okay.
Hard to keep them all straight.
Was that Griffith any part of the old firm, that Griffith Consumers? No part of
No.
that.
The reason I say that is because I dated Bob St. John, and his father was president of Griffith Consumers. And this is when I was in high school. And I found out there was no relation there at all.
Who are these people? Well, and you know what? I think this is, here's this. This is the one. Because I sent Christmas cards. Remember the people that we met
Yeah.
at the, went down to the cemeteries and
Yeah,
everything?
uh-huh.
That's the Griffith side. This one.
What was their name? I can't.
That must be this one. Reynolds, yeah. That's part of the Griffith side. That's, you can see.
And we went down to Congressional Cemetery with them.
Yeah. Okay, we went with, and I still send Christmas cards. I
Okay.
exchanged them. This is Ann Reynolds Scott is her last name now. And her mother and father are Reynolds. The last name is Reynolds. And so Alan and Julie, I get a Christmas card from them. They live in
Well,
California.
the mother was living, she was the golfer, living
Yes.
someplace, and they were selling her house.
Yes, she was in Baltimore. That's why we got to meet up with them. And then they were moving. We went to the house.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And then they sold that house and they moved out to California, which is where he was from. And they're still out there. And they travel around a lot.
Is she still living?
Yeah, she's 1930, oh, boom, yeah. 1934, that doesn't make her that old, does it? She's younger than Ruby.
She's
Yeah.
just a little older
Okay.
than Mike.
I thought she was
a pretty
old.
little woman. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and just a live wire. She's really nice to keep in touch with, and she sent me this whole thing, and well, it was such a coincidence because I see the address where this Ann Scott moved, and I knew she was in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is where my friend Terry moved. So I see this, and I realize because their last names start with S, and I'm looking, and it's the same zip code.
Hmm.
So I looked it up. They live a mile and a half away.
That's funny.
So I wrote to Terry, okay, this isn't a coincidence, and she says, is this somebody I should meet? Well, Anne was born in 1968. This is not something.
And so that's part of Ada, that's the lineage from Ada Griffith.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's, I mean, there's so many people there was a lot of information about that. Oh, I know, I didn't have, I have that Neil died in July of 95. Do you know what date?
July 15th.
Okay.
And that's the day that, the same date that Tom and Katie got married, July the 15th.
Oh, but not 95.
Not the same day.
And do you know Katie's last name? I didn't have it in.
O'Lone. Her
O-
maiden name.
Yeah.
Yeah, O-L-O,
O-O-L-O-N-E.
apostrophe. L-O-N-E, okay. And I also don't have, let's see. What's Cameron,
Judy's last
Judy's-
child, Cameron. Cameron's name.
Jennifer's last.
Jennifer's kid.
Cameron something.
Scott.
Cameron Scott. And do you know when he was born?
No, but wait a minute, he'll be 3 years old February 1st.
Okay, 2, 1.
So they gotta get a car, yeah,
So
I got a
that's
car. for it.
2009, okay. I knew that I'd be able to ask that. Oh, and when do you know Jessica's husband's name?
Who?
Jessica Barnes that got married?
I can't
Okay.
think of it offhand, no.
And, let's see, that's all. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that information because I obviously stopped writing things in at some point. But yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's all up to date.
Oh, it's such a good job you've done.
Well,
My
it's just,
goodness.
and you just keep adding to it, it just
I
keeps going
know.
on and on. And you make sure when you look at your stuff that I got it all right. But now would be the time.
And now I noticed in some of them you have when they're married and some you don't.
Well, it's printed usually on where they have space, so sometimes it's, I don't know whether they pick the husband or the wife, but they only put it in one side.
Yeah,
And
Oh, okay,
if I
I
didn't,
see.
if it's not there, then I didn't know what
okay,
it
all
was.
right.
But you also, I mean, there's birth dates, like I don't have Amelia's,
Oh, I
right?
know, that's what it was. His birthday is the 13th, but I don't know what, let's see, he will be 44. He's just a couple months younger than Kelly.
So this is 12, so that's 68?
1, 13,
68.
68.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's right. I have it on the calendar. That's either his or his woe-begone child, Antonio.
Oh, okay.
Sure. No, it's Emilio's.
Okay.
Because Antonio's is at the end.
Is this tomorrow?
Yeah, oh, I forgot to send a card, there I go again. It's Emilio's birthday tomorrow, and I didn't send a card. Oh, well.
I think I got all the rest of them in there.
And how old will he be tomorrow?
44.
Oh, the father. Oh,
Yeah, not Alex.
Okay.
Okay. Alejandro, did you want his middle name?
Sure.
He is Esteban.
I think I know. Okay.
Robin Russell.
Now, what did you know about your grandfather, Abner Young? Did you
Not a
know?
thing.
Not a thing.
Except that he died young with that nephritis,
Okay. So he
you
was
know,
55.
and my father had to go to work.
They don't put divorces
And quit
in, that's
school.
nice. There's not enough room.
This shows Abner Young was 62. 62? Does that sound how old he was?
That doesn't sound right.
Because it says born in 1845, died in 1907.
Died in when?
1907?
Yeah, that would be right, yeah.
Okay.
He was 62.
Yeah.
Well, must have married late then, because
1891. Yeah. So he'd only been married 16 years. That makes more sense then. All these giants.
Do you ever hear anything from Martha's kids?
Yeah, got a nice note from Gary for
Good.
Christmas.
Good.
And every year I had been sending to the hospice down there that had taken care of Bill a check. And they have these little things that they hang on trees. And so I asked them to please send it to him. Now I don't hear from Laurie, but Judy does.
Ah.
And Judy had kept in touch with
Yeah,
him.
Laurie stays in touch with Bob.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
doesn't stay in touch with constantly
You know,
with
after
anybody.
he killed himself and everything, it was so tragic. But Judy said that every now and then one or the other will get on the phone and talk to you know. And
So is she
Laurie,
doing okay
Laurie
now?
wants to come up. She said she'd like to come up
May.
in April sometime.
Yeah. There's something going, what is it that, there's something gonna happen where she said she would come up for it. And she's also been in touch with Billy
Yeah,
Lakeman. And
she invited him down
Yeah.
too. And
yeah, to
their
the
son's
wedding.
The wedding, yeah. the
Michael got married.
Yeah.
Michael got married in the fall. And Billy was gonna go, and then he said, no, he's gonna be, I don't know whether he's going down, maybe he's going down there in May. Because he said he would.
Did he go?
I think that's coming up.
Oh.
I think it's this May he's talking
Oh.
about going down there, but I wouldn't count on it. I mean, he's been so sick. He is a very sickly person.
Yeah, that's what's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's barely able. I mean, I understand that he can't write. That he had a stroke.
When did he have a stroke?
Had a stroke last year. Remember? And then
I know he had heart surgery.
maybe heart surgery. I think it precipitated that.
Oh, okay.
A stroke, and then he had surgery, and then he fell. He's been in
He
some
fell
sort
and
of
broke his shoulder or something,
yeah,
didn't
and
he?
he couldn't take care of himself, so that they put him in a rehab of some sort, and he
Did
was
he
there.
retire?
Not yet, but they're trying to kick him out.
Well, they should.
Yeah, he shouldn't be
Uh-uh.
earning, and he's what, 64 now?
He's 6 months or something younger than
Yeah.
I. His birthday's,
Yeah, it's
And
May. He's another May
he's
birthday.
in May, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so.
Yeah, so he's not quite a year younger than me. So he will be 64, I guess.
He's bad off.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
He's what?
He is pretty bad off as
Yeah.
far as, and I mean, he's trying to divorce that wife, and we'll see.
Well, I thought she was getting the divorce.
Maybe.
I think.
I know it's coming up to court pretty soon.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the 7th of February or something.
Yeah, I think it's
Judy
coming
said
up.
She was gonna go,
Yeah.
and, because I said, well, she left him, I said, and that could be expensive for him, so. I
Yeah, and
don't-
plus I think she's trying to get everything she can,
Yeah.
which is a real shame.
You know, that's such a disappointment to me, she is, because she never seemed to be like that type, really.
She had me snookered. I'm so gullible. I mean, I can be taken in, and I know from the very beginning Ruby was saying, you know, watch out, and his wife found each one of us, I know, talked to me for a long time, and made me believe that he was an alcoholic and beating her, and just awful things.
Well, he did
Well,
have.
that's what she told me too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he did have a
And
drink.
she had the neighbors next door though, that attested to that fact, because they called the police came
Yeah.
and said that, so I said to Ruby, it's unfortunate, but that she would hold such hostility, but she probably was so upset about that. And she told me one time, all I want to do, I love him very much, is to stay here and just take care of him and feed him.
And I've heard seems like she didn't do that very well, though. Who knows?
She had Ruby and I over for dinner, and we ate very well.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, gee, this is good food. And he said, but we don't eat like this unless you have company.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, she's just, I don't know. I get two sides.
Yeah.
Because she was so compelling, especially down at like the reunion and stuff.
Oh.
She was so, the poor soul, and then you hear the other side where she's just you know, taking money and putting it away and doing stuff like that. But, so who's to know what to believe?
It's too bad.
Yeah, he needs a lot of help. And we're running out of film. Thank
Okay.
goodness. That's pretty good.
All right, that was.
2 hours. Are you exhausted?
No.
No.
But I'm sitting here trying to think of what I left out.
Well, you know what you could do is when you're thinking about this,
Write it down.
write just something that will trigger your
Yeah.
memory, and we'll catch up on all the stories, and maybe we'll be able to figure out a starting place. Because what I think would be interesting is your growing up in Washington, and I know you have a lot of memories.
Well, yeah, I used to roller skate every place, you know,
Yeah.
not those blades that they
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
now, but to get around town. And I went to school, lived in one place and I had to ride, well, when I was 8 years old, I rode the streetcar to get to school. Now, we wouldn't dare do that in DC today.
Those
But an
8-year-old go out,
8-year-old
get there.
An 8-year-old, you know, walk up the corner and get on the car. Be sure you ask for a transfer.
Yeah. Well, I think back to the days when Gami lived on 39th Street, and I vaguely remember your father, Grandpa. I can picture him, and I vaguely remember him. But Gami lived there, and Aunt Laura lived there, and we would go over on weekends, Mom and Dad and Bob and me,
Where's this?
39th Street.
Oh, yeah.
And Gami would give us a quarter. I was 4 and Bob was 7.
Send you out.
And say, go up on the avenue and get yourself an ice cream. And there was a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old walking up Connecticut Avenue. You would never do that. Not even at... Okay, that's good. That's fine.
We're okay now.
We're done.
Oh, there's no power.
There's no power?
Right.
Mike? Hold on. Michael? Where are you? There's no power. You wanna check the breaker box? There's no power. Oh, well, maybe it's that close. I don't know. He can come back up. We're all done. We're getting out of tape.
There's a,
But even ages together,
Well, back up. What do you mean no power? This thing's on.
he
Oh, he has no.
has
Yeah.
no power.
That's what he said, the outside plug, I think.
Maybe that plug's broken.
Oh,
I mean, if you
Working all up on that.
you think a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old going up Connecticut Avenue